I think it's fair to say that all clubs strive to deliver a remarkable member experience. The challenge is it's really hard to do. There's so many things that go into delivering an amazing member experience, from food and beverage to the service. And you can actually back it all up, all the way up into some of the other things around, communication, governance, how the club runs. But as it relates to the service end, it's really challenging. And guest experience is the middle name for my guest in this episode, Barry Jacobson. Spent 30 years as an executive for the Disney Corporation, including running Disney's private club community, Golden Oak. He also spent part of his career working for Invited, which at the time was known as Club Corps. So Barry's done some time in the private club world, as well as the private club community world as well. Very well versed. And today, Barry is consulting. He is the owner of Barry Jacobson Consulting, and he helps organizations elevate their service culture, strengthen the employee engagement, which is so critical when it comes to delivering a member experience, and then turning everyday moments into memorable experiences. In this episode, Barry and I talk about the legendary Disney service model and how that works, and he shares some actionable steps for how club leaders can actually put some of those things to work and how to apply some things. He's got some very interesting formulas that he uses as part of his consulting and his process. Ultimately, this is an episode that you will get a much better understanding as to how Disney operates and how they're able to be so consistent with their guest services. So lots of fun talking to Barry. Here is our conversation. You're listening to Crushing Club Marketing, a podcast for progressive club leaders ready to increase their club's revenue. Time for change begins right now. Well, Barry, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Ed. It's certainly great to be with you, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. I just, as we've been discussing, we have a mutual connection. But for people who are wondering about that connection, you're actually early days of your career were in the private club business with Club Corps, now Invited. But tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, I was working for Disney, and a good friend of mine decided it was time to do something different. So he left to go to work for Club Corp, which is now Invited. And he called me one day and he says, "Oh my gosh, I'm loving this. You got to come out. This is something you're going to love." And this was right around 1985. And there was this corporate raider who was going to take over Disney. There wasn't a lot of growth at Disney that you see during the Michael Eisner years and the Disney decade, it was called. And so I went and did an interview with the folks from Club Corp, and they hired me as an associate manager at the country club at Heathrow. Not before I had to go to Dallas and take this arduous club manager's test and passed, thankfully. But I spent 3 years with Club Corp in the Central Florida area. The country club at Heathrow, Arrow Country Club, helped to open La Cita Country Club, was at the Citrus Club, and then did some regional membership training before I was called back to Disney for another assignment. So I was at Disney for close to 9 years, and then took a little hiatus and started in the club business. And it was certainly amazingly foundational for me to learn a little bit different. The Disney, my Disney experience was in resort operations, hotel operations. And in a hotel business, obviously guests check in and out, and you do have a lot of repeat guests, no doubt, at Disney. So you get to know those guests. But when you go to a private club environment, for me, that was very eye-opening because you see the same members every single day, and you connect with those folks every single day, and you learn their preferences and what their likes and desires are for their club experience. So that was very eye-opening for me when I left. But I loved my time with Club Corp. I got to meet Mr. Deadman at Pinehurst Country Club. I actually got to fly with him on a plane from Orlando to Pinehurst and get to spend time learning about his history and how he developed Club Corp. So it truly, Club Corp and Invited, definitely an incredible club management organization.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Just when I'm listening to you talk about that, the there are similarities and differences, right? Like you talk about, going to a private club and getting to know the members, and there's that level of attention to detail, that level of connection that you have to have in a private club. But there's also a similar type of thing in Disney properties, I would imagine, even if it's maybe a little bit more, oh, I'm getting fireworks behind me. Even if
You
it's a
said
little more
Disney, so fireworks.
no, I bet that's probably it. Even if it's more transactional in nature with Disney, that ability to connect with people is so similar. But how are they different?
Well,
Oh my
I
gosh, there
think
goes
I
again.
think, the way Disney operates is all about a common purpose, right? And it's what is it that we do every single morning when we wake up and create that show, as we call it at Disney, that guest experience? And it's really to create a vacation of a lifetime, but to create happiness and a
Mhm,
connection to an extraordinary experience that you have with your family or your friends or yourself if you come single.
mhm,
And I think it's that's not really too far different from a private club environment where your common purpose every single day is to create a member experience that's extraordinary, an elevated experience, and a preferred experience that's customized and personalized. And I think,
mhm,
Disney adopts that, and so does the club. So while there's a difference between running a theme park and a resort hotel, at the end of the day, what was really unique, and I think I shared this with you. I spent my time in the club, private club business with Club Corp, and then many years later, in 2013, when Disney decided to build a private residential community and a private club, I was beckoned back to Disney to help open Golden Oak, which is a private residential community within the confines of the Walt Disney World property with a private club and with those amenities that are specific and unique to a private club. The dining
mhm,
experience is a little different. It's customized, it's personalized. One member told me where here's a good example. So in a
mm,
resort hotel, in a restaurant, certainly they pay attention to your allergies and your dietary restrictions, and they will customize menus for you. In a
mhm.
private club, one of our club members said to me, Barry, I feel like I'm coming into the club and all I have to do is open up my refrigerator and I get what I want to eat. Now,
Wow.
that wasn't 100% true, but as you know, Ed, in a private club situation and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and somebody's interested in scrambled eggs, of course that's going to happen. And so many years later, having to changed a little bit of the mindset of a Disney cast member to align with a private club experiences where members' desires are met. And, we always used to
Mhm.
say if it's not illegal, immoral, or unethical, we can do it. So if somebody wants some scrambled eggs at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 7 o'clock at night, maybe their stomach is bothering them, maybe they had mouth surgery that day. We would
Right.
use these examples so that people would understand how to turn that switch from being Disney is never transactional. It's very personalized and it's very magical, as we like to say. But
Mhm.
in a private club setting, for me, it's creating that in the moment anticipatory service and not saying no. And at Disney, we always try to say yes, of course.
Right.
But in a private club setting, it's of course happy to serve you,
Mhm.
happy to take care of you, happy to make your meal the way you like it. You learn those preferences, that Mr. Smith is on a salt-free diet, and
Mhm.
you could certainly get your chicken, etc., because a chef will come out to you at Disney and say, "Hey, I'm on a specific diet, and or an allergy." We're very, very, cognizant of people that have any of those issues. But in a private club, we're gonna know already in advance that
Mhm.
Mr. Smith's coming in and he's dining with us tonight. And remember, he has that salt-free condition or
Right.
low carb, low fat, clean eating, all those things that you have to think
Sure.
about when you're personalizing and customizing for a club member.
Yeah, for sure. And it's And so many clubs do an outstanding job with that. And I always love, in conversations with clubs, it's the two examples that always come up as like premier member service or examples are the Ritz and Disney. But what is it that for the clubs that aspire to have that level of service that you're talking about, but they're just not getting it? Like they're not like, what is it, do you think? I mean, and this is going to be, we're going to paint with a really broad brush on this one, but what do you think is maybe not so much what those clubs are missing, but what is it that Disney does that makes it so that it's like, it's maybe not guaranteed, but it's awfully close to being guaranteed to have that same experience every single time?
Yeah, I think it revolves around the hiring process and the onboarding process at Disney. So if you were to come and take a look at DisneyCareers.com, we clearly way in advance tell you the type of standards and behaviors we're expecting from our cast. We call them cast members.
Right,
And
right.
they're clear about being outwardly friendly and being kind and smiling and being able to create some of these behaviors that are so integral to the overall guest experience. So I'll use these terms: cast members are employees and guests are our visitors to Disney. uh, I think in the private club business, standards and behaviors can sometimes get confused with steps of service sometimes,
Mhm.
which are clearly important. But it's that we are friendly. We do smile. We anticipate the guest's needs way in advance. And standards behaviors, and we talk about it in the onboarding. Disney many years ago called it orientation, but now it's called traditions. What are the traditions and heritage pieces of the Disney service levels that are non-negotiables? So,
Mhm.
for example, you will see a picture, you can go on the internet and you'll see Walt Disney himself picking up paper in the park, right?
Mhm.
At orientation or traditions, you see that picture and you
Mhm.
understand no matter what level you're at, you will pick up paper in the park. And I can tell you today, I can walk through a grocery store or parking lot, and even when I'm in the parks at Disney, I'm still picking up paper. And I retired in 2019. I still do it
Mhm.
because it's a standard and a behavior that is critical to the overall experience. So I think in a private club scenario, we we should be telling people stories. What are those things that make us different? So that's another distinct thing. So you just heard a Walt Disney story. Walt
Sure.
picked up paper. Walt said, "Call me by my first name," right? In a private club, it's either Mr. Jones or Mr. Smith, Mrs.
Mhm.
Jones, right? It's usually never first name basis unless the member says, "Please call me Barry," right?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
So I think storytelling is the other differentiator that I think clubs could use. And Walt said it many years ago. What is culture? So it's culture. It's the
Mhm.
way we behave around here. It's why we do what we do and why it affects the experience. And so I think
Mhm.
as you look at your private clubs, all these clubs have a story and a heritage that you should be talking about, and why the club was built and who helped to establish it and some history of that club. And I learned that and how important that is to the
Mhm.
overall experience. And then
Mhm.
what is it that we do that's different? So, yes, it may mean that every time a club member comes into the club, we stand and we welcome that member and we say good morning. We use a salutation. It could be the other thing that we do at Disney, which again, it's all about attention to detail. We call it intentionality. It's being intentional. It's the details, how we answer the phone, how we even sign our emails.
Mhm.
What is the standard for the napkin fold in this particular restaurant versus another restaurant? How do we say hello
Sure.
at Fort Wilderness, howdy, versus the Polynesian, aloha, right? Two different
Right. Yeah.
resorts. They're all Disney resorts, but there's something to it. So
Yeah.
I think it's attention to detail, and one of the things I'm always loving is clubs should check and inspect what they expect. So, when's the last time a general manager called their club, and how is that phone being answered? And you could call a lot of businesses and they don't know how to answer the phone. It's either the person's not enunciating, they're not clear, they don't have a smile in their voice when they're greeting somebody on the phone. So that's attention to detail. So when, long answer, but really those are some of the differentiators that separate Disney and some of the things that I think clubs can use to ensure that culture is happening in their club.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And, as soon as you said it, the cast members, I remembered because I've forgotten actually, but even by calling your team, so many clubs will say our team, our staff, whatever, but when they're cast members, it implies that they are on stage. It implies a certain level of performance even, right? And it has a different, just that whole, the value of that and calling your team a cast is it says something different, which is so cool too.
And I think as you're now looking at clubs today, maybe you go back and look at, what are we calling our team members, and involve your team. They will tell you what works, what doesn't work, what could be better. We don't like being called employees, right? A lot of people don't use the
Right.
term employee anymore. Um, One of the terms I can't stand is in business is human capital. I don't know
Oh yeah, yeah. I
whoever
know.
came up with that. I'm sure it's
I
some
know.
genius at some business school. It's horrible
Oh
to me.
yeah.
It sounds
Oh,
like
director of
slave
human
labor, right?
capital.
But
Yeah, it's gross.
I think the other thing that we try to think about at Disney is what we call the way we think about the way we treat our guests. And it's the same way that we treat our employees. Um, our club members or our guests, we want to make them feel special. We want to treat them as individuals. We want to respect them as a club member and respect their family and pay attention to children. And then we
Mhm.
want to have knowledgeable team members. So those are what club members are expecting. They want to be made to feel special. They want to
Right.
be treated as an individual. They want to be respected and valued as a person, as well as their family and their children, right? And then they want
Yeah.
to have knowledgeable team members. So training and giving our team the tools they need to be successful, being knowledgeable.
Mhm.
And then conversely, our team members want to feel the same thing. Make me feel
Mhm.
special, treat me as an individual, respect me as a human being, and respect and appreciate me as a human being, and make me knowledgeable. Make
Mhm.
me knowledgeable about the job I'm doing at the club. Develop me for potential opportunities that for growth, and know my role. And when I say
Mhm.
know my role, what I mean is club managers, just like us at Disney, we do some, before I would take over a new operation, I was in costume. I had to learn the jobs that I was responsible for. And I think Club Corp did a great job with that with me many, many years ago. When I started at Club Corp, I was out there, mowing grass and cutting cups and breaking sand traps and learning that on the golf side. And then this
Mhm.
conversely, I worked in the dish room. I worked as a server. I worked as a bartender
Wow.
before I got on my normal everyday work uniform as an associate manager back then. So I think
Yeah.
know what your people do in their roles.
Yeah.
Spend the time to listen to your team to understand what their challenges are and how their jobs fit in. And I think one of the other thing is, and you probably remember this from Disney if you've not heard it. We have four, or now it's five keys. They're the foundations of excellence for us. There are operating excellence standards. It's safety, courtesy, show, efficiency, and inclusivity. And I call inclusivity everybody matters, but safety comes first. About
Mhm.
everything we do, we want to be safe.
Mhm.
Courtesy is being friendly and listening and taking care of our guests. Show is quality. And so
Mhm.
when I took over Golden Oak, quality means every single time that egg white omelet comes out of the kitchen, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be fluffy.
Mhm.
It's got to be cooked right. And if we've not trained somebody, if we've not given them the tools and the training to deliver quality every single time and let them know, look, kitchen staff, if the guest asks for a medium rare filet, and it's not cooked perfect, then it's our obligation to walk out and say, you know what? We made a mistake. Train them. Here's a story. You can't
Mhm.
take something and put it out if it's not quality. So quality is our third. Safety, courtesy, show, we call it, it's quality,
Mhm. Yep.
then efficiency, right? How are we operating efficiently? How are we managing our financials? And then the last one is inclusivity, and I've changed that. Disney calls it inclusivity. It's certainly part of diversity, which is the essence. This isn't my phrase, but the essence of creativity, which is a diverse group of people who work together to deliver something, right?
Mhm.
It's not a matter of color or race or age or anything else.
Yeah, it's
To
not like
me,
a DEI thing, right? Yeah.
it's not a DEI thing to me.
Right,
To
yeah.
me, it's everybody matters. And what that means is, as a GM of a club, I know that no matter where you work in that club, whether you're front facing with a club member, a server, a chef on stage, the membership person who welcomes you, the membership person who's helping you to join, or somebody in accounting, or somebody who's you don't see at 5 o'clock in the morning, who's out there raking those sand traps
Right.
or mowing those greens. Everybody matters. So as a general manager, recognize how important all your people are and let
Mhm.
them know how important they are to the overall club member experience.
Yeah, I love that. And core values, I mean, essentially is what we're talking about here, which is so critical. So if you're listening and you're a general manager and you're like, gosh, we're just sort of lost, or you're new to a club or whatever, and you feel like, boy, I got to get this thing, moving in a different direction. Um, what comes first? Do you worry about like setting those standards and saying, hey, this is what excellence is going to look like going forward? Or do you start to get the right people in those spots? You like how and is it at the same time? I mean, what's your thought and in your experience to how to handle those sort of transitional things?
Yeah, I always feel like listening and learning is the first step. And that's
Hmm.
listening to your board, listening to your club members, and listening to your team members, and understanding where we are on the playing field. And many clubs just not different from Walt Disney World Resort or the Disney Company. We have all our guest experience, key performance indicators, all the numbers you can get
Hmm.
are lovely, and numbers are great. But I feel like you got to spend the time learning what the operation is delivering, what the expectations are and the standards, and, looking at the people you have and making sure they're in the right roles.
Hmm.
And so if you don't have somebody who's happy and smiling, enthusiastic, answering your phones or welcoming the club member as they come in the door or welcoming somebody going into the Magic Kingdom at the ticket area,
Right.
that's a problem because first impressions are critical.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that you have the right people doing the right jobs. And you've got to look at every single detail in any operation, whatever aspect it might be, where there's pinch points, where
Hmm.
perhaps maybe it's not easy for somebody to accomplish their job, let's say a culinary person in the kitchen, because we don't have the proper equipment. We may not have
Hmm.
the right broiler. We may not have the correct way to be able to toast something, or we don't even own a mixer in our baking area. If you're lucky enough to have a bake shop
Sure.
like I was at Golden Oak, um, it's it's not a difficult thing. It's not a difficult question you ask, but for a leader has to spend the time learning and listening and then developing an action plan. And what is going to be most effective at that moment in time that's going to
Mhm.
affect not only the employee experience, but the member experience or the guest experience. So,
Sure.
a lot of what we talk about at Disney, I love this from my days of orientation many, many moons ago. Cast equals guest equals financial. So what that means is let's hire the right people. Let's train them and give them the tools that they need to do their job, and let's hold them accountable. And that includes
Mhm.
leadership because everything starts with leaders. Leaders set the
Mhm.
example, leaders model the behaviors, and leaders hold people accountable. So that's cast members. That's your people. And, I'm a
Mhm.
people first philosophy. Then let's take that and translate it to how we're going to treat our guests. So do
Mhm.
those two things. Think about how you're doing all your work, then this other piece will come, which is the
Right.
financial. So I have
Yep.
a similar formula: people plus purpose plus place plus pride equals profit. People, hire the right people, get great people,
Mhm.
give them the tools they need to do their job. What's our purpose for coming to work every day? We're there to create an
Mhm.
extraordinary club member experience. That means
Mhm.
everywhere: in the tennis shop, at the pool, out on the golf course, in the restaurant, on the welcome, in accounting, every single area. That's our purpose, right? We're
Yeah.
sure I've got a role. I'm a chef, but my purpose is to create an extraordinary meal every single time. That's my purpose. Okay. I'm just not a
Mhm.
cook. And same with a
Mhm.
dishwasher, right? A stewarding person. That's
Right.
their job, but their purpose, oh my gosh, without you, without clean silverware, china glass and silverware, without you polishing these things, without you cleaning our pots and pans to deliver extraordinary food, we can't operate, folks. So,
Right.
people, your purpose, your place. That's where you make sure the front entrance is clean, the show aspects, as we call it at Disney, the paint
Mhm.
isn't chipping, all the little details of show, and it's clean, and your bathrooms smell well, and your pool is crystal clear, and the leaves are blown off. I mean, so many things you could think about. So
Right.
people plus purpose plus place, then pride. Pride is quality. And those are
Right.
the things where you don't let things slip, right? We're going to make the drink properly every single time because we've taken that bartender through the quality standards of making that drink, serving it in the proper glass, chilling it, having the right amount of ice, the right amount of alcohol, so it's perfect every single time. Quality. Same with the omelet, same with the steak, same
Mhm.
with how our traps are raked, how our greens are mowed, all the things that are quality. And don't skimp
Mhm.
on quality because people are
Mhm.
paying a lot of money to enjoy experiences today, not just in a private club, but anywhere. So
Mhm.
people plus place plus purpose plus pride equals profit. A lot of businesses start out and say, hey, I'm going to open this club and we're going to get this much money for membership and we got to drive the bottom line and we're thinking about money, money, money and the profit.
Right.
No, 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 no. Start way in advance. Hire the right people, train them right, treat them right, communicate often with them, give them the
Mhm.
tools they need to do the job, and let them take great care of your customers, your club members, and ultimately you will drive loyalty, attend to return, more memberships, and people will be happy.
Yeah. You
I
make
hope
it
that
sound so
helps.
easy, Barry. Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, I love the equation. And I mean, I'm kind of, I say that in jest that you make it sound so easy because it does. And yet I think anyone who's done it knows how hard it really is,
Yes.
to execute for a lot of reasons. I'm wondering, if in your work, well, I'm assuming at Disney, there's some sort of a personality assessment or some assessments that are done to understand right fit for the company or for the role. Is that fair? And my second part of that is, how important do you think those assessments are to make sure that you do have the right people, in the right place, with the right purpose? So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely critical, and Disney does a lot of motivation based interviewing, where a housekeeper, someone who's in custodial housekeeping or cleaning, those questions are: tell me about what you like to do at your house. How's your house kept? And what are the things you do to stay organized? Or ask you a question if you're going to be guest facing. Hey, tell me about some things that you like to do to have some fun. And how do you like it? Do you enjoy going to events? And do you enjoy meeting people? Well, no, I don't really like people. Well, I don't think you're going to find a job at Disney, or
Right.
anywhere where you're guest facing. So I think assessments and motivation based. And then I think what I mentioned earlier, be clear about the behaviors you're expecting from your employees. Let
Mhm.
people know in advance in your hiring information, in your interviewing process, the expectations, because some people may just walk out. I know that when people go to the casting center after they've walked through this magical pixie dust and seen this film about Disney and you get all excited about it, go, I don't think this is for me, right?
Right.
But as you go through the process and you learn about it. And then when you go to your onboarding, and I think people skip onboarding where the general manager has an opportunity in a private club to talk about the passion it takes to deliver on a member experience, right? And the
Mhm.
daily consistency that has to happen. That's another term that I used with my team all the time. Let's be consistent. And then let's learn from any challenges we have. I don't like to call them mistakes, right?
Mhm.
Because mistakes do happen. We're not perfect as human beings. We're not
Mhm.
perfect in the kitchen 100% of the time. We want to be, but somebody misses that recipe and there's too much salt in the soup and it's got to be thrown away. We can't fake it.
Mhm.
You can't take it
Mhm.
off the stove and go, oh, let me doctor it a little. If it doesn't taste right, just there's no soup today, right? Or
Right.
we're going to be late
Right.
on the soup, folks. Come up with ways to teach and try to be consistently great every single day. And if you do have some challenges, if you do have some mistakes that you make, learn from them. Use those as stories to share and deliver on the club member experience. One of my phrases is building the customer experience is one magical interaction at a time. If you think about what goes on in a private club, it's a member to team member, right? It's
Mhm.
singular. Keep your mind and focus of taking great care of that member. Use guest service radar. That's another term I like to use.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than, everybody works as a team. If somebody's water is low, fill that water. If somebody walks up to the bar, you've got to have your head on a swivel to make sure you greet that club member. Good
Right.
afternoon. Hey, I'll be with you in just a moment. Going to have the same old fashioned today? Perfect. I'll get that ready for you right away.
Yeah.
People want to be recognized. People don't want to be sitting. So Ed, you said it. All of what we're talking about is not easy. And
Mhm.
hospitality is not for the faint of heart, right? It is a service business. But if you can instill that passion in your team members to let them know that this is fun, because I mean, obviously you could tell I get a little enthusiastic about delivering
Yeah.
extraordinary service, but that is what the leader of that club has to be. And
Right.
it's part cheerleader, it's part manager, it's part coach every single day. Hey, pre-meal, here's what's happening today, right? Here's the menu, here's what's
Mhm.
going on. So and so's coming in. It's their birthday. We got to make it feel special. Um, Yesterday, we had a problem with X. We want to make sure we pay keen attention that this doesn't happen again. I just want to make you guys aware of that. Have a great day, right? Same
Right.
thing happens in the afternoon shift. The next day, what did we learn? What went great? What didn't go great? It's constant improvement. It takes a lot, but if you can be passionate about it,
Mhm.
it's fun.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love what I do and I love helping people figure out how to do it.
Right. Yeah. And, you said something, this has come through so often in what you're saying is really that it starts at the top, and you've got to it starts with the leader or leadership and with that mindset. And I'm wondering your take on this. So, um, what we do know is that the demographic is shifting as boomers are phasing out, just in general. And, the older boomers are passing away. I mean, frankly, and then the millennials, the Gen Y, Gen Z, whatever alphas, whatever's next. But that generation is different in that they aren't as status oriented with the club. Like, I'm a borderline boomer Gen Xer, and for me, a lot of my peers and certainly people older than me, joining a club was really very much a status type thing. But what we're seeing is that a lot of the Gen Y, Gen Zs, it's not. But it is about an experience. It is about, I want to bring my kids somewhere. I want to be special. I want to be made to feel special. I want to, and that is almost more of an allure to this generation as opposed to status. They look at that and go, I just want a place where I can go and have fun and, and have great experiences. What is your take on that? And how does, I guess maybe it's a little bit tricky, but does the formula change at all for how to deliver those great experiences for this different generation, do you think? Or is it all the same?
I think it's all the same. I think people want to feel a part of something. They want to feel special. They want some exclusivity and privacy, and they want to have an experience that helps them connect with others and
Mhm.
have and build relationships. And I think that's what a private club offers. It allows you that opportunity to connect with like-minded people who you get to meet and connect with folks and build a circle of friends. And I think,
Mhm.
when I came to Golden Oak in 2013. I think we had maybe 8 homes occupied. It's now a 350 member home community. But there was a common purpose that we came to work every day. And I think this is a good common purpose for a club. It's building a sense of community. So that community, that connection, that building of relations. So building a sense of community and driving the club member experience. We called it the resident experience because there was 350 homes that were going to be built here. And so if you can keep those in mind as decision-making points, does this affect the club member experience? And does this drive a sense of connection and community with whatever I'm creating? And the other thing that I think people are yearning for today is being introduced to one another.
Mm.
Maybe
Interesting.
we did this at Golden Oak because another vision I had was almost like a neighborhood, right? And a private club is like a neighborhood. It's a microcosm of people getting together within a confines of one space. And I kind of thought about neighborhoods when I was growing up as a boomer, and you knew your neighbor next door, right? And
Right.
you could walk next door and borrow a cup of sugar or go down the street and have lunch with somebody. And, you'd get Kool-Aid from somebody's house. I mean, I'm dating myself, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I think as you think about what you're doing today and whether it's a Gen X or a Gen Z or Y or whatever you want to call them, people today are craving connection, and I think they're craving relationships, and they're craving experiences that are meaningful and memorable for my family and me, and brings me together with me and my family.
Mhm.
So I love what we did at Golden Oak, and I think you do this in many clubs. You create those
Mhm.
events that resonate with people and bring people together, whether it's an annual holiday party, it's an Easter event or a Christmas function or Father's Day, Mother's Day. How do you make people feel warm and attended to and connected with their family on those days? Because let's face it, no matter who you are, if you're in a working environment, many people that join private clubs are working, and boy, you need a place where you can go, "Oh, I'm home."
Yeah.
And so make
Right.
it feel warm, make it feel
Mhm.
friendly, build connections, make sure you're introducing Ed and his family to Barry and his family when they come in the club, especially if they're a new member, and get
Mhm.
that feeling. And, one event that we created, which I'll share this event with everybody because I love this event, um, was the day after Thanksgiving. So what happens at Thanksgiving around your house, Ed, right? You're with
Yeah.
the family, you're eating turkey, maybe your parents are there, your aunt and uncles are there, you're all together, family, right?
Mhm.
Well, what
Mhm.
happens the next day? It's over. No. Create something the next day. So we created something called Picnic in the Park.
Mhm.
And we had a playground area, and we served burgers and hot dogs, and it was a barbecue and chicken and everything else. None of
Yeah.
that turkey. You're done with that. But what it did, it brought even more extended families together. So now I
Interesting.
got to meet Ed's parents, and I got to meet his cousins who just happened to be. So it created this family. And
Mhm.
I think those are the things that people are craving. And I think those are the things you can think about with this new generation. It's not about technology. I think people want to put it away.
Mm.
Oh, we need to have the club member knowledge base so we know all this information. Sure, that's great stuff. But what people want to know is say, hey, good morning. They want to be greeted well. They want to have a great meal. They want to connect with their family. And what had happened at Golden Oak, and I think it happens in many private clubs, is people get to know each other, spend time with each other, and then they start traveling together. And so we
Right.
created trips for these folks. Now we had the benefit of the Disney Cruise
Wow.
Line. We had the benefit of Adventures by Disney. We could certainly put them all together and send them to California to Disneyland because I was at Florida at Walt Disney World. But these people, the reason they wanted to do it is because we offered it and we
Mhm.
created again that sense of community. So I would offer that up as no matter what generation, I think people are craving getting to know one another, finding like minded folks who can build relationships and then enjoy life together. And that's
Yeah.
what a private club's about, right?
Right. I love that. I mean, and we talk about this, and you said it, but I will tell you this. I've heard so many people talk about, my club's my home away from home, and why do your members love it? Well, because it's like they always say it's like their second home. And everyone says the same thing. And yet I always say, like, well, what does that mean at your club? But anyway, my point though is that what you said is the way you framed it up with a warm place, right? And it does start with the cast members at a club, and how well they're able to do that and create that environment. I just want to ask you one last question, and this is I love this discussion, but I'd love for you to advise general managers, board members on where to start, because here's what I'm hearing in this conversation is that it starts with a really clear vision. You have to have a leader who has a very clear vision of what this club or organization is supposed to be. You have to have the right leader who aligns with that and and then get a team put together or a cast that will support that vision. You have to have great processes that, provide clarity around jobs, hire people, hiring the right people who have, a sense of purpose and the purpose aligns, feedback, management. I mean, all to say there's so many things that have to come together to really, to me, this seems to really pull off what Disney's pulled off, what Ritz has pulled off. And for the manager who's listening going, man, yeah, but hiring, I can't hire the right people. Like, you should see the people who are applying for my jobs here. Like, I can't get the right people. And yet it's like, well, maybe if you create the right place, the people will find it and say, I mean, what I've always loved about Disney, and I remember Barry and I, we have a mutual friend who Barry worked with at Disney. And I remember when she got the job at Disney and we were like, oh my gosh, she's got a job at Disney. That is the coolest thing. And someone said, well, they don't pay very well. And I remember that. But we're like, well, who cares? I mean, she's going to go work for Disney. It's like, one of the greatest brands in the world. And for years she worked there and probably, felt like the compensation wasn't great, but she was working for an amazing organization. All that to say that we put a lot of emphasis on compensation as employers. But you know what? When you deliver an amazing experience for your team, a lot of times money isn't as important. So I'd love to get your thought on some of that. And just like for the manager who's going, gosh, I love listening to Barry and what he has to say, but look, he had a big machine behind him. I can't do that in my little club. Where did they start? What did they do? How do what's the mindset of that?
Um, I think it's exactly what you said, and you summed up everything I said really well. So I'm gonna use that. Send that to me. Um, no, really. It's create an environment where people love to come to work. Treat your employees well. Let them know what the benefits are. Let them know how valued they are and how important they are to delivering on the club member experience. And if they know that up front and you share with them how to do that, they're going to love coming to work and they're going to enjoy it and find ways to show them that they're valued and appreciated. And that can be as easy as saying good morning every day. You know, I loved coming in every morning through the back of the house in the kitchen. And sure, I knew I was going to taste a Danish in the morning that the pastry chef was making, or someone was going to ask me to try something, but it was more about good morning. And that was everybody in the back of the house, and then go to my office and say good morning to the concierge staff, the club member staff, if you will. People want to feel valued and appreciated. So I would say that's important, number one. And number two, make sure that every team member knows their why. Simon Sinek says it. Disney says it, right? Their why is to create happiness and create an extraordinary experience. If people know why they do what they do, they got a role. But if they know their purpose for coming to work every day and how important it is and how it is measured and valued by every single club member who's going to come in, that will make a difference. And so go back and look and say, what does our onboarding look like? Does the team have clarity about behaviors and standards? Do they understand what quality looks like every single time consistently? So if they know what the expectations are, they can deliver on the expectations. So that would be my advice.
I love that. Barry, this has been awesome. You know, I got to tell you, I'm like in a better mood today. I usually start the day in a good mood, but it really is. It's just such great, you know, it's refreshing to hear your perspective and how you say it and how you position things, and also knowing what you've learned along the way. It's been awesome.
Yeah, and I'm, look, in my now career in retirement, I'm having a whole lot of fun. I just helped a private club open in Orlando, and we set our common purpose of elevating every moment. That was our common purpose. So what does that mean? Now I have to explain it. Just like at Disney, we create happiness. You've got to explain it, and you've got to tell stories behind it all as to the why. And I think the fireworks helped, Ed. When every time you said Disney, I don't know how that happened, but that was pretty magical. And
it was pretty magical.
I've really had a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you having me on it. I love talking about creating memorable moments, meaningful and memorable moments. That's one of my taglines. Do what is meaningful, and it will be memorable.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Barry.
All right, Ed. Thanks.
Thank you for listening. If you find episodes like this helpful, be sure to share it and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're using. Until next time, keep crushing your club marketing.